The 1966 British film Alfie has one of the most pro-life scenes I've ever watched in any film. What makes the scene so powerful is that it's not trying to hit you over the head with its message, it's just showing you the natural consequences of the main character's actions. So who is the main character and what is this movie even about? Well, the main character is Alfie, played by Caine, and he plays this smooth-talking, carefree ladies' man, but not the cute, charming ladies' man like Will Smith's character in the movie Hitch, more like the creepy grifter pickup artist red pill guys of the early 2000s. The film opens up with Alfie hooking up with a married woman in his car, and when they're done, he addresses the camera, breaking the fourth wall, and he discusses the pros and cons of dating a married woman versus dating a single woman. He even afterwards coaches her on how to better hide this affair from her husband. We then meet his other girlfriend, Gilda. You can hardly call her a girlfriend, he just uses her for sex.
Now, I told Gilda from the start that I ain't a marrying soul.
But she's this single, sad, working class girl who genuinely loves Alfie and wants him to commit to her. And every time she tells him she loves him, he gets visibly irritated. Again, this is a guy who wants all the benefits of a relationship with none of the responsibility. Well, Gilda ends up getting pregnant with Alfie's child. She begs him to step up as a father, right? He refuses, of course, and while she's pregnant, he's pressuring her to give the baby up for adoption, saying she's too low class to raise the boy properly. And while he's saying this, he's peppering in phrases like, even though it's a free country, even though it's your choice. So he's hiding behind the language of the sexual revolution to hide his manipulation.
Can I, go through with it and have the baby?
What are you asking me for? It's yours, isn't it?
She ends up having the baby and not putting the baby up for adoption, so Alfie becomes a weekend dad. He promises to see the baby on his days off. And the whole time he's there, he's criticizing Gilda and being cruel to her. But there is a moment when he first holds the baby, and there's a rare flash of warmth. He smiles. But it's almost gone immediately, and he's off chasing the next woman. So Alfie is not offering any financial or emotional support. So of course, eventually Gilda has had enough, and she ends up marrying Humphrey, a local bus driver who's very steady and really loves her, and even ends up adopting her and Alfie's son. And when Alfie first learns about this, he's pretty cavalier about it because, after all, his philosophy is that any attachments just get in the way of his womanizing lifestyle anyway. But in a rare moment of honest self-reflection while he's in the hospital checking out a medical condition that he may or may not have, he hints at regretting abandoning his little accidental family that he created, and he even admits to sometimes hearing the phantom cries of his abandoned son.
No, well, there are times when I can still hear him calling Daddy after me.
After this brief revelation, he blurts out to the doctor that he misses his son, and then peers out the window where he sees a funeral procession. For some reason, this causes him to panic and he faints. He wakes up later in a sanatorium, recovering, back to his old self, hitting on all the nurses, and he befriends a fellow patient, the man in the bunk next to his, whose wife Lily, Alfie will soon meet and have an affair with. Well, Lily ends up getting pregnant, and Alfie doesn't want to deal with the drama that would come with his former friend finding out, so he arranges an abortion, which in 1966 in England is illegal, but he finds a doctor to do it. Doctor shows up, Alfie looks laid back and cavalier, and Lily looks incredibly miserable, like all the women in this film. The doctor's incredibly serious and totally self-aware of what's going on. He even bluntly says, "We're about to commit a crime against an unborn child, so, where's my money?" Alfie doesn't care. He's like, "Here's my money, let's just get this over with." So doctor goes to do the procedure. Alfie goes outside to take a walk, walks by the local church, and who does he see? Movie coincidence, he sees Gilda with her new husband, his biological son, who he's abandoned, and they're there to baptize their new baby. To me, this juxtaposition of abortion with baptism hits harder today than it did back then because, well, what is baptism? It's a sacrament. It's the gateway to life in the spirit and the door that gives access to all the other sacraments. It's an important ritual in the Christian life, but it's also not just a ritual. It's a new birth. It's regeneration. And abortion's almost the opposite. It's a termination, but back then, pro-choicers, pro-abortionists, whatever you want to call them, they saw it as a necessary evil. They used to say abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. It was almost framed as something that we should have it to protect poor women and help prevent population explosion. I mean, this is the way it was framed back then. But today, it's been elevated. You see people wearing pins that say, "I love abortion." It's gone from being portrayed as a tragic last resort to a transformative, even cathartic rite, R-I-T-E, right, that frees a woman from the burdens of biology, pregnancy, or unwanted motherhood. It's become a testimony of liberation. The more witchy, new agey types, they'll just flat out call it a sacrament. But even in the most secular circles, it's a non-negotiable dogma. It's a litmus test of orthodoxy. Just as denying the sacrament of baptism can place one outside the church, opposing abortion is treated as heresy. It's a core creed. So I just think it's interesting that this movie puts the abortion side by side with a baptism so many years before it became this widely accepted practice. Okay, back to the scene. After he gets back from the church, he sees Lily on the couch recovering. And he goes over and he peeks behind the curtain where he sees the fully formed remains. And he just starts weeping. He's shaken to his core. Because for the first time, he's literally face to face with the consequences of his action. He has to look directly into the eye of what he's done. And he's so disrupted by it that he races out, he runs out to go see his friend, who's not really a friend. He's just a buddy who he does scams with and borrows money from, but he just kind of uses him to trauma dump. But really what he's doing is he's confessing.
And I thought to myself, you know what, Alfie? You know what you done? You murdered him.
And after this pseudo-confession, he kind of wants to change his life and settle down, but he gets rejected, and he ends the film by breaking the fourth wall, where he admits that he lacks peace of mind. In other words, he's not happy. But he blames this unhappiness on the meaninglessness of the universe, which to me is a sort of defensive nihilism. Because by saying everything's meaningless, you don't really have to wrestle with the rightness or wrongness of anything you've done. It's a cop-out. And so after this rationalization, he just kind of shrugs his shoulders, sees the stray dog from the beginning of the movie, and they walk off into the shadows together, and he's alone, because that's the natural result of living a life dedicated to sex, divorced from the moral order. So yeah, watch Alfie. The performances are really good, and I just always thought it was interesting that it was able to convey this message without being preachy. It's almost accidental.